What's up, people? This is Eki Baru, your precast concrete manufacturer with a passion for building with modern technology. My video today is very interesting. I'm presenting to you a precast concrete raised foundation. This is a foundation that is made from precast pre-stressed T-beams and precasted midsection of infill panels as a floor. And I'm going to showcase you how we actually install this to be your slab floor and how we're cutting down your costs. Karibuni sana.
Splice Originals.
The site location is in Kiambu, where a 3-bedroom bungalow affordable unit was being constructed, and we are grateful we gave opportunity to university students studying building and construction and engineering courses. They were part of this amazing project, and we thank you all for the opportunity. This is a detailed section for the base setting for the columns, the rebar, the designs, and you can see the team is busy setting out the column sections. These columns are mini columns that actually hold the upper foundation. They act like props, basically, where the pre-stressed T-beam rests on top. This is the material on site ready, and everything is progressing. We've verified that all the foot bases that were dug reach the soil bearing capacity. This is where our mini columns are going to rest on, and this is where we are going to have our rebar and the screeding and the concrete 200 mm casted to carry the footing for the raised foundation. You can see all the holes are ready. They are all spaced at 1.5 meter, and this spacing was specifically designed by our engineer to make sure our pre-stressed T-beam rests on top. We use Gladiator. This is a pesticide that is poured to the footing to navigate the issues of termites. Kiambu is a deadly place where termites are evenly spread all over the red soil, and it's important to have the Gladiator pesticide poured to the sections. This was done by one of the intern, and he made sure everything was well. Next course of action, intern Daniels was running the machine, making sure all the concrete ratios are correct. And this concrete is what we were pouring to the foot bases as a screed, and eventually we were going to cast our reinforced concrete section for the 1.2 meter squared bases of concrete and the mini columns. As you can see, they're up now. All the bases were filled with concrete, and we were busy vibrating all the section with our poker vibrator and making sure that the concrete is well laid out and vibrated. The bases had a 200 mm concrete layer on top, covering all the footings with rebar reinforced D12s inside. You can see the mini columns, and the next course of action was going to be sleeving it up. So we were not going to have the timber formwork as usual, but we are using a precasted block called a H block to sleeve the mini columns. So I'm going to detail you how the H block was very vital in having these mini columns instead of timber. We waited the concrete to settle and cure, so we left it overnight as after the operation was done. So the next day we started sleeving the columns with an ingenious H block. The H block has a midsection that is hollow, and usually this is where we pour the concrete that will form the column. So H blocks acts like a formwork, but not just a formwork. It also acts as more like a masonry stone to carry the load. The only difference is that the midsection, which has rebar, will be reinforced. So these H blocks went to the gradient size. Basically, we had some section having like 4 or 5 H blocks depending on the gradient of the land, and we wanted an even foundation that is leveled. So installing them required sleeving it up like the way you can see, and again we needed to use a spirit level to make sure that all in the same required level. So the pre-stressed T-beam is supposed to lay on top, And here the connection details, which is very vital because maybe seismic load or maybe the differential settling of the structure. So we needed to make sure that it's well tied up, so that it doesn't move in the future. So this section we had an option of using welding it up with timber, with metal plates, and not only metal plates. You can also chemical anchor it. If not chemical anchor it, you can run the prestressed T-beam through the section of the rebar. But in our case, we decided to use grouting method to grout into place. Grout acts like an adhesive. So the grout that we poured on top of our slab applied all the mass force on the foundation, and they were able to be laid very well. So I'm going to detail you how this was done, and this is the most interesting part to assemble the prestressed T-beam and the blocks. You can see the concrete being poured in there. Very simple. All the mini columns are now up. Put the poker vibrator. Make sure you vibrate the column inside the H block and you hold it and make sure the H block doesn't move. So in the evening or from afternoon, when all this was done, we were ready to now lay our prestressed T-beam on top. Now we are laying or assembling the prestressed T-beam on top of the mini columns. It's a very interesting affair here. You can see we have the midsection with double beams. The double beams means they're going to carry more loads. In this case, we are using the prestressed T-beam as the typical reinforced beam that is typically used. But now this is a little bit semi-detached, but the connection is what we are using, a mortar connection, where a mortar is used to bind it together, plus the own weight that's going to be applied on top will be more of a platform that is binded together by concrete. So there is a schedule of drawing of what beams goes where. Remember, these prestressed T-beams come from factory when they already cut into right sizes to just go on top. You can see the platform is coming into place. The midsection filler, we're using the precast panels in 1 meter section. So meaning the prestressed T-beam are being spaced by 1 meter. And by the way, guys, using these precast panels, which we usually use them as a wall section again, has made this foundation to be extremely cheap. In places where you could have used 10 beams, because you're spacing them with 1 meter, you're saving the cost of the prestressed T by 50%. Instead of 10, you use only 5. When you're laying these panels and the prestressed T-beam, the plumber must be there on site. The plumber work is to make sure that all the services points are directed underneath. For instance, the toilet, the floor trap, and at the same time when we are assembling the panels, the mason is busy, or the formwork team is busy paneling the side panels or the side formwork, so that when we pour concrete on top, the concrete will not go to waste. So every panels, you just interlock them, and this is the way the plumbing section has been done, the services. You can see the side formwork, and we're able to say now we are ready to pour concrete. We usually pour concrete in 50 millimeter topping on it, 2-inch. The concrete is reinforced with fiber mesh. And the beautiful part about the panels, we can run the wheelbarrows right away. People can walk on them. They are really very strong because they are reinforced again inside. And when we be pouring our concrete, our wheelbarrow will be resting on top of the panels. When we pour the concrete, it's going to compress right away on top, and the compression of concrete will bind everything together, including the prestressed T-beams that are underneath. It's a very simplified way of suspending the foundation. Typically, many years they used to suspend foundation with timber, and timber was wholly used everywhere. In this case, we're using the composite prestressed T-beam to replace the timber. The following day, we woke up and everything was done. You can see we're removing the side formwork, and then we pour water for 1 more day because concrete needs at least The next day, our floor platform is ready. We do a little bit of jumping on a slab. We do that to test some cold vibration. Maybe the concrete does not really compress, you hear a little bit of vibration. And we're ready to start walling. We use the precast wall panels. It's quick job. Assembly takes 2 days to partition the whole house. And this is how we do a pre-stress slab and precast wall for the affordable housing. Thank you for watching.